We've all been talking about this flurry of reports around New Jersey and surrounding states. People are reporting lights in the sky. Suspicious drones are flying over homes and businesses, communities, government offices. What's going on? Is this some kind of conspiracy? And it's not just the conspiracy theorists. Everyday people walking around coming up with some sort of a paranoid speculation about what's happening. The politicians have jumped on board. I noticed that the mayor of Montvale, New Jersey, he said he saw some drones that were flying in sync with each other, and he found it very alarming. Privacy and security concerns are paramount. New York Senator Chuck Schumer came forward, and he suggested using high-tech drone hunters to get to the bottom of all of this. And of course, Donald Trump had to get a few words in about, it really was a dig at the current administration about this whole drone debacle.
I think they'd be better off saying what it is our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense.
On top of that, we've got mental health experts saying this is just another mass panic, which is something that human beings love to do, right? Brian Dunning, my special guest, you are the producer of a documentary called The UFO Movie They Don't Want You to See. You're also well known as host of the Skeptoid podcast.
Indeed.
You've written a book called Conspiracies Declassified. Do you get into like UFOs in that book?
Not so much in that one. We do like the 9/11 conspiracy. The book came out just as the whole UAP thing and the congressional hearings were just getting started. So it wasn't the pop culture phenomenon yet that it is now.
The Department of Defense thing, right? Where everybody was like, they're declassifying video footage and now the truth shall be known. And the truth was what?
Nothing. Yeah, no, it's just been this relatively small group of really obsessed, lifelong UFO believers and professionals and authors who have been incredibly successful at getting the media to sort of promote their narrative that UFOs are some sort of interdimensional spiritual beings, and it's all wrapped in with life after death. And it's very strange beliefs that these people have, but they've been very successful getting Congress people on board and getting these hearings to be run over and over again. It's fascinating how much it's permeated pop culture in just a few years.
This is just another iteration of that. I've seen the footage. I see lights, points in the sky. These are the same points in the sky that were there 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, but that's the way the social contagion works is when, you can see ordinary things all day long. You live near LaGuardia Airport, you see planes coming in all day long, and so you don't pay attention to them. And then suddenly when you hear that everyone is seeing, hey, there's drones over LaGuardia, then you do look and you do pay attention. You say, oh, there's a whole line of lights appearing to be in formation. Well, yeah, that's the way that airplanes approach an airport. And suddenly you have this social contagion. Everyone hears it, and suddenly they attribute everything they see to this new phenomenon.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate. Why now? Someone's seeing something. Are there maybe pranksters who are throwing some extra drones up there to try to stir the pots and get attention?
Not necessarily. Possibly, but not necessarily. All it takes is for one person to misinterpret anything, whether they correctly interpreted a real drone. There's the toy DJI drones are everywhere, so it's entirely possible. Or it could have just been someone seeing an airplane. Just about 2 weeks ago, I was on some Japanese TV show that had a video somebody took very obviously of an airplane on its final approach. You could see all of its navigation lights and everything. And this had gone viral in Japan that everyone was thinking this was some kind of a UFO. And I had to go on and explain, no, look, here we can tell it's an airplane because of this, 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 and this. So it doesn't have to be a drone or anything unusual to get one of these rages started. That's what happened in Japan. That's what's happening right now in New Jersey.
There was one photograph, and I was looking really closely at it, and I'm thinking, this is obviously a helicopter. Everybody's screaming drone. I think the caption on the news photo said suspected drone, unidentified flying object. And I'm looking at it going, That's a chopper. It's a freaking helicopter.
Who suspects that? The one question the Japanese producer, who was very much a believer that this was something mysterious, one question he asked me was, how did you come to the conclusion that it was an airplane? It's like, that's the starting assumption. That's not the conclusion you eventually reach. When you see an airplane doing a normal airplane thing in a normal airplane approach pattern, it's an airplane. There's no reason to think otherwise. And he couldn't get around, why didn't you first assume that this was an alien spaceship or something else extraordinary? It's just this backwards thinking process.
It's like that Fox Mulder poster that says, I want to believe. Did you share it, or maybe I tagged you in it? It was a poster, a drone identification poster, and it showed every known aircraft, everything from a 737 to a single engine Cessna, and it just says drone. Have you seen that thing?
Yeah, I did. It was like labeled aircraft identification guide or something. Drone. That was pretty
Okay,
fun.
well, I played the Trump clip about him saying, well, this current administration has been awfully slow in saying something about this, So the implication is they've dropped the ball. They're either incompetent or they're hiding something. How would you respond to that?
It's very difficult to respond to just baseless conspiracy theories. There's simply no evidence of that. First, we know there's nothing extraordinary. We don't know there's nothing extraordinary. We have no evidence that there is anything extraordinary. So there's nothing for anyone to be covering up. But, Roseanne Barr is saying this is part of Project Blue Beam. Have you heard about this Project Blue Beam? No. This is a new thing that some of the conspiracy crowd is. They believe that the government is flying drones over us to acclimate us to the idea of having drones everywhere, so that we'll be softened up when they have their final solution, when the deep state rounds us all into concentration camps for orderly extermination. Or it's just the most bizarre thing.
I knew the deep state was going to play into this sooner or later.
And then Joe Rogan, I guess I just saw this on Newsweek this morning. I didn't see it or anything, but Joe Rogan apparently is suggesting the same thing, that these are government deployed drones to acclimate us to, whatever the final solution is going to be. Biden, the deep state's final solution for Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg are going to round us into extermination camps.
Joe Rogan, once a moon landing denier, so he has a long history of being very late to the party. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Of course, she had to turn this into a referendum on freedom. She's like, well, you're not going to, cause me to shelter in place, as if all of a sudden the government's going to command us to run into our houses under our roofs or something and put tinfoil hats on. I don't know. But she's like, she's threatening to point guns in the air, Brian. And other people are echoing that. Holy shnikes.
The real danger is that there are Congress people and everyone else demanding that the National Guard be sent out and start actively trying to shoot down these airplanes. And there's been a number of reports, I don't know if any of them are confirmed, that residents are shooting at airplanes because they think they're drones, because of this whole nonsense going on. And then whenever they do produce a picture of the drone they're shooting at, it's very obviously an airplane. So this is, there's definitely a dark, serious side to this.
There are guides that show the light configurations on various aircraft, what the lights are, what they do, what their function is, so that people who were interested in what they were looking at beyond the conspiracies, the paranoia, the suspicions, the panic could actually say, oh, look, those are landing lights, or those are navigation lights, or those, there is a method to this that we can track down. Now we've got people pointing laser pointers at planes. What's that about, Brian?
That's always been a problem. Fortunately, it's usually just the little red laser pointers that don't do a lot of damage. But there are these green lasers that you can get. My daughter's an astronomer, and she gives star talks, and she's got this green laser that is very dangerous. And so the rule
dangerous how, Brian? And forgive the interruption, but when you say it can do some damage, what are you talking about?
It can blind you. A red laser pointer, in fact, anything sold as a laser pointer is low enough wattage, low enough power that it wouldn't blind you unless you stuck it straight in your eye for a moment. But you can shine it around at people in an auditorium, and you're not going to blind anyone with that. But these green lasers that are as much as 100 times the wattage can be very, very dangerous. And if you shine that in a plane and it got into a pilot's eye, he could be immediately blinded. So the rule with the green laser pointer that she has is nobody ever touches it except her, no exceptions, period. Not her professor, nobody else. And that's the kind of safety protocol you have to have around these very dangerous lasers, but you can buy them on the internet. So they're out there. So that's another thing that we could have a very serious problem with. It doesn't have to be a pilot. If you're shooting at an airliner going by, you got 100 windows down the side, it could blind any of the passengers.
Are we just stupid? I mean, are we just sheep, Brian? I hate to use words like stupid, but I just feel like that people in groups just do stupid shit all the time. All we need is a bright, shiny object to distract us and send us off into some sort of a frothing panic. I mean, have you gotten into the psychology of any of this stuff?
Oh, a lot. I mean, every little urban legend or whatever it is that I'm talking about on my show, that's always the most fascinating component, is how and why did this belief come to be a thing, and why do people believe it? They say, as you note, a person is smart, people are stupid. and it's not that anyone's stupid, they're human. And we all have, you and I, we both have the same fallibilities that the craziest Marjorie Taylor Greens are falling susceptible to. And it's that our brains try to misinterpret things in the way that makes sense to them and what they expect to see and what they want to see. And that's just part of being human. And the more experienced you are at understanding that, I think the better tools you have to learn to separate when your brain is doing the wrong thing. But I certainly find myself being wrong about things all the time. So it's hard to fault other people for doing the same thing. Particularly when you've got this, I don't want to get political here. I seriously don't, but
go ahead.
All of the Congress people that I've heard calling for these to be shot down have been Republicans. Why is that? I don't know. Is there actually, they're no stupider than Democratic Congress people. I think that's, a requirement to be in Congress at all. I think it's just that some of them actually have a narrative that the Biden administration is not doing anything about this threat. I think they're just using it as a little bit of political ammunition here to make Biden look bad.
Sometimes I wonder, though, if we're so easily distracted, right? So if they get us over here pursuing the bright, shiny object, then they can get away with shenanigans over there. That's a whole other conspiracy theory.
They get away with shenanigans regardless of where anyone's looking.
I guess that's true. I'm familiar with things like the baloney detection kit, but just in a nutshell, if people get into this and they start to freak out and the headlines make them worry and they think, what are these lights in the sky? Is there like a toolkit for people to sort of BS proof themselves in this weird age of misinformation?
Yeah, I've done a lot of episodes about that, and people have written about it in books, and other podcasts have all given the same kind of sets of things. Here's the logical fallacies and the cognitive biases you can look for. But I don't know how useful that is in the real world in the middle of your day. I think it's probably better to just go on one of the more reliable fact-checking websites. There's a new one I like a lot called Verify This. There's Snopes, BBC has one. There's a whole list of these that have been found to be unbiased and pretty darn good sources to go to. And when you go somewhere like the drone thing, you can quickly find out that no, there's no evidence that there's any drones. And yes, it's true that this congressperson or that congressperson called for these evident commercial airlines to be shot down. So there are ways that people can quickly find out what's really going on that do fit into the normal lives of modern humans. And it's not so much going through a checklist of logical fallacies and cognitive biases. I think it's more useful just to go to one of these websites really quick and just check it out.
All these denials sound like someone who is in on the cover-up, Brian. You sound like someone who's in on the conspiracy. The more you debunk it, the more it must be true.
If I had a nickel for every time I got called, there's the UFO movie is on YouTube Movies and TVs, so people can make comments on it, and it's just oh my God, although it's like 80% thumbs up and 20% thumbs down, the comments are 99% negative. The people who really this got under their craw are the ones who are really upset enough to leave a comment, and almost all of them are saying, obviously the CIA paid this guy to make this movie.
Man, I hope you're getting paid for all of this sort of clandestine work, all these psyops.
Having a nickel for every one of those comments would be more than the CIA ever could have paid.
It's a lose-lose because if it's true, it's true. And if you debunk it, it's still true. It's maddening. And of course, we've seen this far beyond the drone conspiracies, but the deep state you mentioned, the QAnon stuff, fundy religions, it's the more they're debunked, the more you are simply in league with the enemy. It is frustrating, but
it's tiresome. Yeah.
Just to put a punctuation mark on it, no reason to freak out. There is nothing there. There is no there. Is that what you're saying, Brian?
Yes, and it's not just me. The Homeland Security and FBI put out a joint statement that says, there's one sentence of it, one concluding sentence. Upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft operating lawfully. There are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. So, I mean, it's official. You've got it from all the people who analyze these things professionally for a living online, people like you and I and many others. And you've got it from Homeland Security and the FBI. And if you want to stick to the position that, hey, everyone is lying to me, then I don't know that there's much else that we can do for you.
I have a confession before I let you go. I mean, this is probably, if I had a drone, I would be tempted to throw some extra Christmas lights on it and stick like an alien head on the top, with glowing eyes and literally just fly it around the neighborhood, just because I know how easily led people are, and I would amuse myself with that. So I do have to wonder if there might be one or two people out there who are doing the same. But maybe
I can guarantee there are now. This has been gone so big, and it's so easy because so many people have these little commercial drones that you can just buy. I've got one. I could go do that myself. In fact, maybe I will. I don't know as far as I know, there's nothing illegal about hanging lights on your drone, as long as you follow all the other rules, which I don't.
Now, in my brain, I'm already doing like weight ratios and how much would it be able to carry and how much does an alien head weigh and all those other things. Brian, You're awesome. I'm going to link to your UFO documentary in the comments because it is relevant here. But I wanted to check in quickly and just make sure that we weren't being invaded by aliens, surveilled by the government, or it wasn't the end of the world. So you're saying you think we're okay?
I think you're okay for now, but do keep that tinfoil handy in case you need it.
Brian Dunning, thanks for talking to me.
Thank you, sir.